Well, good morning. You're watching Morning at NTV, and time for us to take note. In my bid to prove to each of us that there are Ugandan creatives, there are Ugandan writers. Every Friday, I host a Ugandan writer who writes everything from fiction. Today, actually, I'm intrigued. There's African culture, somebody who's decided to write about culture, and has actually been a freelance journalist since 2003, teaches in creative writing and arts, and also studied film festival and event management in Berlin, Germany. Co-written the book Totems of Uganda, the Buganda edition, Culture Embracing Nature, and also written Ugandan and Malian sculpture, comparing the contemporary identities. I was actually asking if we're really similar, and says you'd be very surprised how similar Ugandan and Malian artists are. Please welcome Nathan Chiwere. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, so we always want to figure out the writer as a person before we get to the pages, or the research or the work they have done. And I think I always start with asking how whoever's in that chair ended up writing, because as we have a very low reading culture, let alone writing. So I wonder where the interest was born from, Nathan.
Well, I think it was always there while I was younger, but I think when I reached A-level, I offered literature as one of my subjects in the combination, and I did well in it. It also really captivated me so much, and I thought I would probably practice journalism. I didn't. I ended up doing art at the university. But when I left, I didn't practice art. I went straight into media practice. So I started writing about art in the New Vision, later in the Monitor briefly, then the Observer for some time, then Independent. And right now I write for a paper called Good News. I also
Still arts?
Yeah, it's about art. Art and culture. So I wrote about music, cinema. And I also had a stint in television, still on UBC, about doing a program about art. So I've been around there. And so writing has been at the center of my, my passions for a long time. And then, of course, I went into creative writing.
So yes, I mean, I also did literature. I was telling someone the other day that not all of us who did literature took an interest anyway that far into writing or telling stories. But you could have decided to write and written stories about Jim and Jane or love or whatever. I wonder why the interest in actually arts and culture. Is it because you actually studied arts at the university, or this is a passion?
Well, that was part of it. Well, first of all, as you might know already, there is creative writing or fiction, which is fiction, novel, plays, film, and all that stuff. Then there is non-fiction writing, which is now about
what you do,
and journalism, what you do. So you're basically describing things. I fall on both sides of the divide. And I right now I'm more into writing about arts and culture, but I would think of myself as a more creative writer. I've written a novel, I've written a play, I've written for film, I've produced them, and it depends on the demand at the moment, because you can make some money writing about arts and culture, even just as much as you can with fiction, but sometimes you have to be strategic where you want to.
I like that. In fact, I think today Nathan says he wants to talk about how they can be commercialized, and I think we'll try and get into that. But I'm wondering, when you're writing about arts and culture, especially, we can say Africa and then Uganda, let's say for the case of Uganda, I wonder if there's enough material to go around. Because even if you're to do research, because we're not really a structured country. It's like someone was telling me, just for example, roads, you don't know where you're going and which panya started where, what simple things like that. But I'd imagine if you're going to write about, say, totems of Uganda, are there enough places or resources to get your research?
Again, Uganda is part of Africa, and Africa is a very diverse continent. And Uganda is actually the fourth most diverse country in the whole world, in terms of the ethnicities, in terms of the cultural heritage. There is so much in Uganda. Uganda is a gold mine of culture stories. I can tell people don't see them, people don't realize it because they are sitting right
in front of us.
But people come from all over the world to enjoy Uganda's culture. You know, it's called culture tourism. And other people come and write about Ugandan culture from out there.
Imagine.
So there, in terms of material, I think there is an infinity of possibilities in Uganda. You don't have to go very far. You just need to look into yourself. So, and I don't understand why we don't have so many publications about Ugandan culture. You know, there are a few publications maybe, but it's just the tip of the iceberg. We've not exhausted, and we're not anywhere near exhausting, you know, the potential of culture, of writing about culture, if you ask me.
If you talk about culture in Uganda and someone watching is thinking culture is reduced to how I kneel down greeting someone, how I wear the gomesi, and the food I eat, malakwang and what, and if someone thinks that's as far as my culture is spread, to talk to us about the diversity, especially for someone who's written about arts and culture, the diversity in what we have. You said we have, you know, a gold mine of resource.
First of all, most people, we have both tangible and intangible cultural heritage. Most people are familiar with the tangible cultural heritage. But Uganda, you know, I don't know how many ethnic communities we have. It's one of the highest in the whole world. And each ethnic community has its own, you know, norms and values, which are different from the other. Some cut across. Now, like, talk about totems, for example. Totems culture is such a huge thing in this country, and it has been for so many years, for over a millennium. And the people who subscribe to these totem cultures are so many, almost everyone, in some ways. It's
not just the Baganda.
Not just the Baganda, that's the mistake people make. In the north, people have totems. In the west, they have totems. They respect them, they don't harm them, they do everything to preserve them. And there are cultural, you know, issues about all these totems, how they came into being, why they chose that particular totem to become their totem, but not the other. You know, so those stories are not known.
Exactly. Even the person who says Nebirachino, but they don't know.
If you ask them, why do you think that is your totem and not the other one? They're like, I don't know.
My father.
That includes even the parents. Today's parents, the elderly people. So that knowledge is passing, and maybe in future, if we don't do enough to preserve it, it will be gone. And people, they will abandon it because they don't know there is no basis for, you know.
They don't see the value.
They don't see the value.
In having that last name, what that last name meant, where it came from, the great-grandfather. Yes.
That book you see there explains the genesis of totems, at least most of the totems. Who were the first, the progenitors of these totems, the forefathers, and under which circumstances they get to become totems of that particular clan. And so when people get to know that information, they put more value on their totems. I'll give you an example. Taga, the co-author of this book, many years ago, he was traveling to Masaka in a taxi, and the driver, called Sengendo, spotted some creature on the road, and he actually trailed it and ran over it. And then his conductor asked him, "What is that you just killed this time?" The guys are like, "No, it's just a small creature." Until someone in the front seat told him it's not just a creature, it is actually what do you call it, a fumbe, which happened to be totem of the driver.
Sengendo.
And the guy was like, "Are you serious? You're pulling my legs?" No, I'm actually serious.
Whoa.
And the guy who used to call himself Cultured Msaja Waka Waka, who didn't even know what his totem
looked like,
was so shocked, so touched. Actually, he pulled over, and he was so, you know, he couldn't drive. In fact, the driver, the conductor had to come and take over because, like, I've betrayed my own.
Yeah, because
I've killed myself.
How we did a fombe.
Yeah, and we're like, so how many other Sengendos actually there?
Wow.
You know, so that's how this book actually was inspired.
Yeah, so the book is Totems of Uganda, Buganda edition.
Yes.
You're telling me it's actually available?
This
bookstores
and bookstores, in Aristoc at Book Point. And it's very pictorial as well.
Yes, I was about to say it has pictures. So just in case you did and you do not know what it looks like, then it's good to at least know so that the next time you see it, you know the value of it. But also, I read when you were just telling me the reason why we came to have totems, especially maybe for the Buganda kingdom, and how it's such a conservationist theory that they were trying to preserve some of these species and some of these animals. And so you were telling me that you would have 2 totems as a Muganda.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, when it comes to totem cultures, usually there are 2 totems for one part. There is a primary totem, Omuziro, and then the secondary totem, Akabiro.
Okay.
So, and of course, if you are a man, or a woman for that matter, and your father had, of course, the 2 totems, and your mother was also a Muganda,
the same,
is a Muganda, and she, of course, because you can't marry your own from your own clan, you marry from another clan. So the other person comes with the 2 totems. So those become 4 in one family. So one person, a son, has 4 totems. Now, if this son marries a woman, a Muganda woman, she also comes with her 4 totems from another clan.
Yes.
And those are 8 totems, 8 species. There might be a lion, an elephant, a civet, a bushbuck. And you don't eat any of these.
Of those.
You respect them, you preserve them. You understand? So this culture is very powerful tool for nature conservation, species conservation, and it has been for more than 1,000 years. So, and the world is not aware about this. It is up to us to tell them that, look, we have something very unique here. We need to celebrate it, we need to recognize it. And like I told you earlier, I'm writing another book about totems culture, and my argument is about them being the 8th wonder of the world. Just because you see the other 7 wonders of the world, the pyramids and the Taj Mahal, they are physical things you can touch, you can see.
Yes.
Totems fall under intangible cultural heritage, which you can't see, but it is very significant in value. And my argument is greater than some of those things that, you know, the Western world is touting around. And also because they have the means to do so.
Yes, to do so, exactly. Yes. And the next time you go to Queen Elizabeth and see an elephant, you know its value to you or to your family. Help me understand before we go any further, for someone who maybe is not well versed with it, your primary totem and your...
The primary totem, Omuziro.
And then the Akabiro. Are they related animals from different species?
No, usually they're very different.
Usually they're different?
Yes, they are very... You might find a lion, I'm just giving an example. A bushbuck is the totem, the Omuziro. Then Akabiro is the bird.
Oh, okay. Completely different. Yes. So you were telling me how writing for arts and culture, there's opportunities there, and people are not embracing the opportunities. When I had different writers, maybe because they were in a different field of writing, as you explained to us, fiction and non-fiction, they were saying that we don't get published as much. There's opportunities, but not that many opportunities for us writers to come out and commercialize our business. And yet you were telling me off air that there's actually space for us to make money. There's space for us to be successful. We're not taking advantage of the space. First, let's talk about how you diversified. You actually studied film festival?
Well, first I told you I studied literature.
Yes.
At A level. But most of what I know also is part of my, like, I'm a second creation of my own proactive design.
Okay.
On top of the literature that I studied, I try to put in a lot, trying to understand more about this, you know, the mechanics of creative writing.
Yes.
And of course, my time also at Makerere as a visiting lecturer helped me to understand research.
Okay.
So I was able to build on that. Diversifying, yes, I've done a lot of, you know, other courses here and there about film, about stuff like that. But my diversifying has had to do with the time I spent in academia. That's how I got to write a lot about culture and arts. But the fiction is just a passion. It's a passionate thing. Yes, writing for theater, for film, and for novel, you know.
That's just you.
Yeah. And now going back to the question you asked, and I heard for a long time that East Africa in general has been talked about as a literary desert compared to other parts of you know, Africa. You know, a lot of writing is coming from West Africa. And Southern Africa. But East Africa, we've taken a back seat, and yet we have a lot of a big source for stories, and we're like, what's the problem? So what I see, why people actually don't get so much into writing is as a business is because writers are not able to, they lack entrepreneurial skills. Okay. That is very important. We have very good writers, but they don't know how to position themselves in the marketplace.
People in the creative industry generally.
Generally, but I think writers probably have a bigger problem. At least, I mean, the people in film, in drama, they're trying. You see them out there. Yes. But the writers are supposed to actually to document some of those things. But we don't have the skills. I can tell you that the demand for good writers is so high, and not in Uganda only, but across the continent and the world. Most of my clients, I do ghostwriting, and I think I make some good income from ghostwriting. Most of my clients are not from Uganda.
Okay, so just to tell people, ghostwriting is when you
write a book you translate someone's thoughts into text, into a book. People have good ideas, but they don't have the gift to write. That is okay. So they hire your services to write. Of course, it will be their name on the book.
I was about to say, you don't take any credit. You get paid.
Yes.
That's a remuneration.
In fact, your name is not anywhere at all in the book. Most of these beautiful books you see, including by presidents, they're not written by these people.
They told the story.
Yes.
But someone else put it to text.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, those services are in a very high demand.
Really?
But people don't know.
In this country?
Yeah, even in this country. And that includes people who not necessarily, they don't necessarily have the idea to put a book out there, but they need to be told. I can go and convince someone, look, I think you are worth a book material.
Okay.
And say like, okay, what kind of book? A biography. Okay, what kind of story? And at the end of the day, someone's like, I think that's a very good idea. How much? And within 1-2 years, there's a book out there, and someone is telling their story, or someone else's story for that matter, if they are sponsoring the story. So the demand for good writers is infinite. It's so enormous.
Okay, so what you're saying is the opportunities are there. They just don't have the ability to seek these opportunities.
To brand themselves, first of all, and position themselves.
Nathan, how would a writer brand themselves? Because I can tell you how someone in entertainment, someone in many industries can brand themselves. I'm wondering for someone who rarely speaks and instead puts to text, can brand themselves?
I think, yes, you can. One of the very, very simple ways is you create a website of yourself and you explain what you do, what you've done before.
Okay.
But you have to do it in a very professional, nice way. You should have business cards.
I am Nathan Chiweri, I write.
Then so people, when people can buy into you, when they read your profile, they're like, okay, I think he can write. Then you begin to promote yourself. You look for opportunities, you know. All over the world, you don't have to go there. Some of these people, you can find them online, you can talk to, you can email. But I'm telling you, I started CC Africa. CC is a Swahili word, it means we.
Oh, okay.
CC Africa, so we Africans.
Yes.
And I began to sell the idea to several countries, and there is nowhere I've been that they have turned me down. Now there is CC Mali, there is CC Malawi, there is CC Zambia, soon there will be CC Swaziland. And all these are platforms where we can attract people locally within those countries who are interested in writing, and the books don't have to be written in the country. I can bring work here and actually distribute it to other writers, you know, as ghost writers.
Imagine.
So like I said, there is no limit to what is possible if you know how to do the right thing. So like a friend of mine normally says, the future belongs to the organized.
Which is not happening now. Some people are not organized.
If you're not organized, I'm sorry, there is no future for you.
Wow.
So how do you organize yourself as a writer
to
be attractive, to attract opportunities, which are, like I said, infinite? There are not enough writers.
Are we talking about an established writer, how they're branding themselves, or is talking about someone who is starting fresh, a fresh writer? Again,
I said you need to be a good writer. That's relative.
Yeah.
But of course, there are also many masqueraders. There are many people who are in the field of writing, but in reality, they shouldn't be there, or they are not yet there. They need to build more.
Their work is not yet marketable.
So they don't have any frame of reference to show that this is a book I've written, and someone can read and they're like, okay, I think I can give you work.
Yes.
So there are such people, but they're also good writers, very good writers who are struggling. They don't get worth their value. And so they get frustrated. They say, the writing is not, there's no money.
There's no money.
They write scripts and take to certain publisher. They respond after 2 years to tell them that, we are sorry, your script is not good enough. But how is someone surviving during that time? So you have to think outside of the box. You can't just depend on these mainstream, ways of making money as a writer.
Let me ask you, Nathan, in terms of making money, is content also key, what you're writing about?
Absolutely. I mean, it's like a film. If you're making a film, the plot, the story is very important. There are people who enjoy the film because they like the story. So the content is everything, really. It's content and how you put it out there, how you drive the content to the audience. So content is very important. But like I said, there's more content than you can exhaust.
Oh, so it's not a question of this, I can't find content. Because I was about to say, what if someone says, I'm trying to find content that's relevant. I just don't know where to find it.
If depending on what you're writing, if you're writing fiction, you just need to be imaginative.
Yes.
Because fiction is any piece of writing that presents events and emotions in an imaginative way. So now it comes down to your creativity of the mind.
Yes.
You can imagine, there is no limit to what the mind can do.
What the mind can do and where it can
absolutely.
take you.
That's why we are glued to these movies and these series all the time.
Because someone has thought of something.
Make believe. But we enjoy them and we are so excited. What makes you think we can't do that here?
Okay, so we're lazy. I'm guessing that you just you're being polite, Nathan. But Nathan Chiwere is a Ugandan writer. Where has your writing taken you?
First of all, for example, this book, Totems of Uganda, which we written by Taga Nwagaba and myself. If you read the pages before the content, you find the kind of people who wrote, validating the book.
Yes, yes.
Dr. Jane Goodall, David Shepard. These are very big people around the world, and they have networks. So if Jane Goodall writes a recommendation
and says this book is worth reading,
there are people who listen.
Yes.
Say, okay, where is it?
Let's get a copy.
You see that book here? I met the gentleman in Cape Town, and he got to know I'm a writer. And I just proposed, in a passing, I can write a book about Ugandan Malian sculpture. He was very excited.
Is it Mamu
Defe? So he invited me to Mali, and I did research at his cost, everything, and he published this book in Europe. And it's now in distribution. And recently, he has asked me to write another book, which is called Towards a New Pan-African Culture Order, which will be launched in Feb in Mali next year. It's in English and French, and many other opportunities I can't talk about.
Wow.
So yes, writing has really taken me places, and it has opened my world to an infinity of possibilities, which I can never manage maybe to do in my lifetime. As in the work that is there to be done now, I would never be able to do it in my lifetime. So that's why I need to share some of these opportunities with people who would like to look at writing as a profession where they can, become people of significance.
I hear you. Thank you so much, Nathan Chiwere, who is very passionate about African arts and culture. He has a book, Totems of Uganda, the Buganda edition. So if you're in Uganda, please look for that. He said in all bookstores it's available. You can go to Aristo Corner and find out, why do I have these? And also, what do they look like? So that the next time I said singing, you don't run over your own totem without even knowing that, this is what it is. And he also has Ugandan and Malian sculpture, comparing the contemporary identities. And this is arts.
Yes.
This is art. Yeah. Sorry. So if you're interested in that, please find him. And I like that in our series of Ugandan writers, Nathan has said there are so many countless opportunities to commercialize and make money. Just take advantage of it. Brand yourself, you said, as a writer who can make money. That's it for Morning at NTV. Have a good day.
You're watching Morning at NTV.